I am Carrie Heron. I am a second-year PhD student. I'm also a part-time PhD student. I am a full-time teacher as well. So I'm going through the process a little bit slower than most people. So bear with me because my interests change daily. Right now, this is what I'm interested in, but that could change tomorrow. So I'm interested in eco art, and what that is the integration of art education and environmental education. It encourages art educators to interact with environmental concepts and issues such as conservation, preservation, restoration, and sustainability. It highlights artists and artworks that value the support of a land ethic, valuing all forms of life on the planet, systems of thinking, sustainability, social and biological diversity, social and environmental justice, collaboration, and integrity. So what I'm really looking at is how this applies to my teaching. As a art teacher, I teach high school art education, AP art history, and I also teach in the College of Education as a student teacher supervisor for general education, elementary ed majors. So I'm really interested in how I can find those little moments to make the connections between ecology and environmental issues in these classroom situations that I'm in. So looking back at the origins of what eco art is, we look back to the 1960s in the US at the women's rights movements and the environmental movements. And we see primarily artists taking on these environmental issues through their artworks. So eco art emerged as a response to the environmental art of the late 60s. So we first see the artists responding to the events that are happening, and then eco art emerges, and art education is responding to the artwork. So we can see here that eco art can be thought of as the midwives for the earth, facilitators of environmental education, consultants for environmental restoration, and visionaries for transforming ecological communities. Also, while artists have been devising creative solutions to environmental problems, Hillary Inwood states, since the 1970s, art educators, for the most part, have not kept pace and have not done enough to share their work with a broader audience. And this is why art education is a place where we can start exploring these things. Art education may be uniquely poised to respond to the Anthropocene through its affective, experimental, art-based orientation. It has the potential to shift attitudes. It is geared toward, and I'm just going to state Hillary Inwood again. She says that the sensory subjective orientation typically found in art education will not only help to shift learners' attitudes about ecological concerns, but may prove to be more effective in changing the behaviors towards the environment than traditional science-based approaches. It is this ability to stimulate learners' minds, yet also touch their hearts, that makes art education a powerful ally in fostering ecological literacy. And I found that to be true with my students as well. In those little moments where we're able to bridge the gap between art and environmental issues, it is really geared, it's taking on a science approach and as well as a heart approach. And students are forming empathy as they're working with natural materials. These are the things that I'm really interested in integrating in my classroom, is art making the idea of interconnection and self-actualization. And I'll kind of talk through each one of these things, but this is what I strive to do in the classroom. So I ask, how can art making lead to an understanding of our place within the world in relation to other living and non-living beings? And how can that lead us on a path towards our own self-actualization? Traditionally, humans see themselves as dominant over the rest of the living world, and in some cases, stewards of it. Bruno Latour and Donna Haraway state relationships with the natural world are intertwined and interrelated, void of hierarchical power. They claim that human relationships with the earth are not one-sided or beneficial only for human beings and sustainability, but related through a network of interdependence with non-human beings, disputing the hierarchical Western concept of human dominance over the natural world and non-human beings. Each organism exists in collaboration and is dependent upon one another, Understanding the relationship between the health of our planet and the health of humanity, we are participating with and living in a symbiotic relationship. Anderson and Gaius, in their article, Earth Education, Interbeing, and Deep Ecology, discuss the need to reorient our idea of self to include an understanding that is integrally and relationally part of everyone and everything else. And I feel that in order to reorient ourselves, we need to undergo the process of self-actualization to find our place within the interconnectedness of the world. In her book, Teaching to Transgress, Education as the Practice of Freedom, Bell Hooks stresses the importance of self-actualization in education, stating that personal success is intimately linked with self-actualization. I believe that the type of personal success she's referring to is a type of self-actualization or personal success that is found in understanding who we are and how we fit into the world in relation to others, living and non-living. And I believe art making provides a path to find that. The change on both of these screens. And I do this, one example of how I do this is through the work of Anna Mendieta. We study her in AP Art History with my high school students. We look at her artwork. We explore why she's doing the things that she's doing and making sense of it. We are going through this, we're researching her as we're going through the land art movement of the 1960s and 70s. She is an example of an eco-artist whose work is defined as and overlaps the land art movement, body art movement, and feminist art movements. She uses her body in relation to the land as a way to reclaim her roots and become one with nature. And so when I'm teaching this with my students, we are looking at the Silhouette series here, or the Silhouette series, to provide examples of how students can interact with the natural world through performative and visual arts. This is a way for students that are typically inside. I teach at a cyber school that are typically tied to their computers, giving them a chance or encouraging them to go out and explore that natural world and see how they can relate to it. And often this is a great gateway for them to do that by modeling and seeing how someone else has done it before them. So we look at her Silhouette series. There's a lot of them where she's using the silhouette of her body against different places in the earth. And this brings up themes of feminist themes of oppression and dominance of women's bodies. We talk about that. We also talk about how to use art as a multidisciplinary art form using performance, photography, and film to disrupt society's passivity regarding issues like gender, race, prejudice, and violence. And we also look at how this applies to the idea of interconnectedness in relation to all living beings and non-living beings. This provides a framework for students as they begin thinking about how interactions and art making